My name is Bethina Rose Crawford. I am 68 years old. I have lived a long life, a hard life, a life full of sacrifice and love and pain. I raised 4 children by myself after my husband died when I was just 32 years old. I worked as a hospital cleaner for 35 years. I scrubbed floors. I emptied trash cans. I cleaned toilets. I did whatever I had to do to keep my children fed and clothed and safe. I never complained, not once, because that is what mothers do. We sacrifice. We suffer in silence. We give everything we have so our children can have a better life. But sometimes, the children we sacrifice for do not appreciate it. Sometimes, they forget where they came from. Sometimes, they become strangers wearing familiar faces. And that is exactly what happened to me. Let me tell you about the worst moment of my life. It was my daughter's wedding day. My youngest daughter, Precious, the baby of the family, the one I loved the most, the one I gave everything to. I paid for that wedding, every single penny. The dress, the venue, the food, the flowers, the music, the photographer, everything. It cost me $47,000, money I had saved for 20 years, money I was supposed to use for my retirement, money I gave willingly because I wanted my daughter to have the perfect day. And how did she repay me? She mocked me in front of 300 guests. She stood at that microphone in her beautiful white dress, the dress I paid for, and she made fun of me. "I want to thank my mother for being here today," Precious said. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were cold. "I know it must be hard for her seeing me marry into a real family, a family with class, a family with money, not like the little shack she raised us in." The guests laughed. Some of them covered their mouths. Others whispered to each other. I could feel their eyes on me, judging me, pitying me. But Precious was not done. "Mama, I know you did your best," she continued. "But let us be honest. Your best was not very good. I mean, look at you, sitting there in that old dress. You could not even buy something new for my wedding." My heart was breaking. I could feel it cracking inside my chest. Tears were burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I would not give her the satisfaction. I looked around the room. The guests were staring at me. Some looked uncomfortable. Others were smirking. My other children, my 2 sons and my older daughter, were sitting at a table near the front. They looked horrified, but they did not say anything. They did not defend me. I was alone, completely alone. Precious laughed and raised her champagne glass. "To my mother," she said, "the woman who taught me everything I did not want to be." The guests raised their glasses. Some of them actually drank to that toast, a toast that insulted me, a toast that humiliated me, a toast that broke my spirit. I wanted to stand up and walk out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip over a table and tell everyone the truth about my ungrateful daughter. But I did not. I just sat there, frozen, broken. And then something happened that nobody expected. Someone stood up from the back of the room, a woman I did not recognize at first. She was tall and elegant, wearing a deep purple dress. Her gray hair was pulled back in a beautiful bun. She walked toward the front of the room with slow, confident steps. The room went silent. Precious frowned. "Excuse me, who are you? This is a private event." The woman did not answer. She just kept walking until she reached the microphone. Then she gently took it from Precious's hand. "My name is Constance Whitmore," the woman said. Her voice was calm but powerful. "And I have something to say about this mother you just mocked." Precious's face went pale. The woman turned to face the crowd. 23 years ago, I made the worst mistake of my life, a mistake that has haunted me every single day. And tonight, I am here to make it right." She looked directly at me. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Bethina," she said, "I am so sorry for everything." I stared at her. My mind was racing. Who was this woman? How did she know my name, and what was she sorry for? The room was completely silent. Everyone was holding their breath. And then Constance said something that made my blood run cold. "Bethina, there is something you need to know, something about Precious, something I should have told you a long time ago." She took a deep breath. "Precious is not who you think she is, and neither am I. Now, before I continue, I need to ask you something. Are you with me? Are you ready to hear the rest of this story? If you are, I need you to do something for me. I need you to subscribe to this channel right now. Press that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That little bell is important because it tells you every time I post a new story. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Also, press the like button. That like button helps more people find this channel. It helps me reach more mothers, more grandmothers, more people who have been hurt by the ones they love. And one more thing. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Are you from New York, Florida, California? Maybe you are watching from Nigeria or Ghana or Jamaica or the UK. I want to know who is here with me. I want to build a family of strong people who support each other. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how I got to that terrible moment at my daughter's wedding. I was born in a small town in Mississippi. My parents were poor, but they were good people. My father worked in the cotton fields. My mother cleaned houses for rich white families. They taught me the value of hard work. They taught me to be honest. They taught me to love my family no matter what. When I was 19 years old, I met a man named Roosevelt Crawford. He was tall and handsome with a smile that could light up a room. He worked at the local factory. He did not have much money, but he had a good heart. We fell in love fast. Within 6 months, we were married. Within a year, we had our first child, a boy we named Malcolm. Over the next 10 years, we had 3 more children. Darnell came 2 years after Malcolm, then my older daughter, Ruthann, and finally, Precious, my baby girl, born when I was 30 years old. Life was hard, but it was good. Roosevelt worked long hours at the factory. I took care of the children and did odd jobs to bring in extra money. We did not have much, but we had each other. Then tragedy struck. When Precious was just 2 years old, Roosevelt was killed in a car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit his truck. Roosevelt died instantly. I will never forget that night. The police officers knocking on my door. The words that did not make sense. The screaming that came from somewhere deep inside me. The feeling that my whole world had ended. I was 32 years old, a widow, a single mother of 4 children, and I had no idea how I was going to survive. But I did survive, because I had to, because my children needed me. I got a job as a cleaner at the local hospital. It was hard work, long hours, low pay, but it was honest work and I was grateful for it. I worked double shifts whenever I could. I saved every penny. I made sure my children had food on the table and clothes on their backs. I helped them with their homework. I went to their school plays and basketball games. I was there for every important moment. And through it all, I never complained. I never felt sorry for myself. I just kept going, one day at a time. My children grew up. Malcolm became an electrician. Darnell became a truck driver. Ruthann became a nurse. They were not rich, but they were good people. They worked hard. They took care of their families. They made me proud. But Precious was different. From the time she was a little girl, Precious wanted more. She wanted nice clothes. She wanted expensive toys. She wanted to be better than everyone else. I thought it was just a phase. I thought she would grow out of it, but she never did. As Precious got older, she became more and more obsessed with money and status. She was embarrassed by our small house. She was embarrassed by my job. She was embarrassed by me. "Mama, why can you not get a better job?" she would ask. "Why do we have to live in this dump? Why can you not be like other mothers?" Those words hurt. They cut me deep, but I tried to understand. I told myself that Precious was just a teenager, that she did not mean what she said, that she would appreciate me when she got older. But I was wrong. When Precious turned 18, she got a scholarship to a fancy university up north. I was so proud of her. She was the first person in our family to go to college. I thought this was her chance to make something of herself. I worked extra shifts to help pay for her expenses. I sent her money every month. I called her every week to see how she was doing. But Precious started to change. At first, it was little things. She stopped calling me Mama and started calling me Mother. She started speaking differently, using big words and a fancy accent. She started talking about her new friends, rich kids from wealthy families. Then she stopped calling altogether. Weeks would go by without a word from her. When I tried to call, she would not answer. When I left messages, she would not call back. I told myself she was busy with school. I made excuses for her. I refused to believe that my baby girl was pushing me away. Then one Christmas, Precious came home to visit, but she did not come alone. She brought a man with her, a man named Theodore Ashford III. He was tall and pale with slicked-back hair and cold blue eyes. He wore expensive clothes and drove a fancy car. He came from old money, Precious told me. His family owned banks and businesses and properties all over the country. Theodore looked around my small house like it was a garbage dump. He barely spoke to me. When I offered him food, he said he was not hungry. When I tried to make conversation, he gave one-word answers. But the worst part was how Precious acted around him. She was like a different person. She laughed at everything he said, even when it was not funny. She agreed with everything he said, even when it was wrong. She looked at him like he was a king, and she was lucky to be in his presence. And she looked at me like I was an embarrassment. That night, after dinner, I overheard Precious talking to Theodore in the guest room. The door was cracked open, and their voices carried into the hallway. "I am so sorry about this place," Precious said. "I know it is not what you are used to." "It is fine," Theodore said, but his voice said it was not fine. "My mother means well," Precious continued. "She just does not know any better. She is simple, you know." Simple. My own daughter called me simple. I stood in that hallway, my heart breaking into a million pieces. I wanted to burst into that room and confront her. I wanted to ask her how she could say such things about the woman who raised her, the woman who sacrificed everything for her. But I did not. I just walked away. I went to my bedroom and cried myself to sleep. The next morning, Precious announced that she and Theodore were engaged. She showed me the ring. It was huge, a diamond so big it looked fake. "We are getting married next summer," Precious said. "And I want a big wedding, a beautiful wedding, the kind of wedding Theodore's family expects." I forced a smile. "That sounds wonderful, baby. I am so happy for you." "There is just one problem," Precious said. She looked at Theodore, then back at me. "Theodore's family is traditional. They believe the bride's family should pay for the wedding." My stomach dropped. "How much?" I asked. Precious shrugged like it was nothing. "About $50,000. $50,000. That was more money than I made in 2 years. That was my entire life savings. That was my retirement." "Precious, I do not have that kind of money," I said. "Mama, please." Precious grabbed my hands. Her eyes were big and pleading. "This is my dream. This is everything I have ever wanted. I cannot marry into Theodore's family with a cheap wedding. They will never respect me." I looked at my daughter, my baby girl, the child I had sacrificed everything for. And I made a decision that I would regret for the rest of my life. "Okay," I said, "I will find a way." Over the next year, I worked harder than I had ever worked before. I took extra shifts at the hospital. I cleaned houses on the weekends. I sold some of my furniture. I cashed in my retirement savings. Slowly, painfully, I gathered the money. $47,000, everything I had. I gave it all to Precious. She took the money without even saying thank you. She just nodded and said, "I will send you the details about the wedding." The details, like I was a guest, not her mother. But I pushed those feelings aside. I told myself that Precious was just stressed about the wedding, that she would appreciate me when it was all over, that everything would be okay. I was so wrong. The wedding was held at a beautiful estate outside the city. White tents, crystal chandeliers, flowers everywhere. It looked like something from a magazine. I arrived early, wearing the nicest dress I owned. It was an old dress, but it was clean and pressed. I thought I looked presentable. But when Precious saw me, her face twisted with disgust. "Mama, what are you wearing?" she hissed. "You look like you are going to a funeral." "It is the nicest dress I have," I said quietly. Precious rolled her eyes. "Whatever, just try not to embarrass me." Those words stung, but I kept my mouth shut. I did not want to cause a scene on her wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful. Precious looked like a princess in her white gown. Theodore looked handsome in his tuxedo. They exchanged vows and rings and kisses. Everyone clapped and cheered. I cried, not tears of joy, tears of sadness, because I knew deep in my heart that I had lost my daughter a long time ago. Then came the reception. The toasts began. Theodore's father spoke first. He talked about what a wonderful addition Precious was to their family. Then Theodore's mother spoke. She talked about how lucky Theodore was to find such a beautiful wife. No one mentioned me. No one thanked the woman who paid for the entire wedding. And then Precious took the microphone. That was when she mocked me, in front of everyone. She called me poor. She called me pathetic. She called me everything she did not want to be. I sat there, frozen, as my heart shattered into a million pieces. And then the woman in the purple dress stood up. Constance Whitmore. She took the microphone and looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Bethina, there is something you need to know, something about Precious, something I should have told you a long time ago." The room was silent. And then she said the words that changed everything. "Precious is not your biological daughter. She was switched at birth, and I know this because—" She paused. A tear rolled down her cheek. "Because I am her real mother, and the daughter I raised, the daughter who should have been yours. She died 3 years ago, without ever knowing the truth." The room exploded into chaos. Guests were gasping. People were shouting. Precious dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the floor. And I just sat there, staring at the woman in the purple dress. The woman who had just turned my entire life upside down. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The room was in chaos. Guests were standing up from their seats. Some were shouting. Others were whispering frantically to each other. Phones were out. People were recording. The beautiful wedding reception had turned into a circus. But I did not see any of it. I did not hear any of it. All I could see was Constance Whitmore, the woman in the purple dress, the woman who had just told me that my daughter was not my daughter. My mind could not process what she had said. The words were bouncing around in my head like rocks in an empty tin can. Switched at birth, not your biological daughter. The daughter who should have been yours died 3 years ago. What did that mean? How was that possible? I was there when Precious was born. I held her in my arms. I nursed her. I raised her for 25 years. How could she not be mine? Precious was screaming. Her face was red with rage. The beautiful bride had transformed into something ugly. "Who is this woman?" Precious shrieked. "Security, get her out of here. She is ruining my wedding." Theodore's father, a tall man with silver hair named Harrison Ashford, stood up from his seat. His face was dark with anger. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "Who let this woman in?" But Constance did not flinch. She stood at the microphone, calm and composed, like she was standing in the eye of a hurricane. "I know this is a shock," Constance said. Her voice was steady. "I know this is not what anyone expected, but the truth cannot stay buried forever. And tonight, after 25 years, the truth must finally be told." Theodore grabbed Precious by the arm. "Let us go," he said. "We do not have to listen to this nonsense." But Precious did not move. She was staring at Constance with something strange in her eyes, not just anger, something else, something that looked almost like recognition. "Who are you?" Precious asked. Her voice was quieter now, almost scared. Constance looked at her. A sad smile crossed her face. "I told you, child. My name is Constance Whitmore, and 25 years ago you were born in St. Michael's Hospital. The same hospital where Bethina gave birth on the same night. The same hospital where 2 baby girls were switched by a nurse who made a terrible, terrible mistake." The room went silent. Even the whispers stopped. Everyone was staring at Constance, waiting for her to continue. I found my voice. It came out cracked and broken, like glass shattering. "How do you know this?" I asked. "How do you know any of this?" Constance turned to look at me. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Because I have proof," she said, "and because I have spent the last 3 years trying to find the courage to tell you." She reached into her purse and pulled out a thick folder. She held it up for everyone to see. "This folder contains DNA tests, hospital records, sworn statements, everything you need to know the truth." She walked toward me slowly. The crowd parted to let her through. When she reached my table, she placed the folder in front of me. "I am so sorry, Bethina," she whispered. "I am so sorry it took me this long." I stared at the folder. My hands were shaking. I did not know if I wanted to open it. I did not know if I was ready to face whatever was inside. But I had to know. After everything that had happened, I had to know the truth. I opened the folder. The first document was a DNA test. It was dated 3 years ago. At the top, there were 2 names, Constance Whitmore and Precious Crawford. My eyes scanned the results. The words blurred together, but one phrase stood out in bold letters. Probability of maternity, 99.98%. Constance Whitmore was Precious's biological mother. I turned to the next page. Another DNA test. This one had 2 different names, Bethina Crawford and Precious Crawford. Probability of maternity, 0%. 0%. Precious was not my daughter, not biologically, not by blood. The folder slipped from my hands. It fell to the floor and papers scattered everywhere. I could not breathe. I could not think. The world was spinning around me. "Mama," it was Ruth Ann's voice, my older daughter, my real daughter. She was standing beside me, her face pale with shock. "Mama, what does this mean?" I could not answer her. I could not speak. Constance knelt beside me. She picked up the papers and placed them back on the table. "I know this is overwhelming," she said gently, "but there is more you need to know, more you deserve to know." I looked at her with hollow eyes. "How?" I whispered. "How did this happen?" Constance took a deep breath, and then she told me the story that would change my life forever. 25 years ago, Constance Whitmore was a young woman from a wealthy family. She was 24 years old, beautiful, educated, and engaged to a man from another wealthy family. Her life was perfect, or so everyone thought. But Constance had a secret. She was pregnant, and the father was not her fiancé. "I had an affair," Constance admitted. Her voice was heavy with shame. "It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. But when I found out I was pregnant, I could not bring myself to end it. I wanted the baby. I wanted to be a mother." But Constance's family did not feel the same way. When they found out about the pregnancy, they were furious. They told her she had brought shame on the family. They told her she had ruined her future. They told her she had to give the baby up for adoption. "I refused," Constance said. "I told them I would raise the baby myself. I did not care about my inheritance or my reputation. I just wanted my child." But her family had other plans. When Constance went into labor, she was taken to St. Michael's Hospital. Her mother came with her, not to support her, to control her. "My mother bribed a nurse," Constance said. Her voice was trembling now. "She paid her to switch my baby with another baby born that same night. She wanted to get rid of my child without anyone knowing. She wanted to protect the family name." I felt sick to my stomach. And that other baby, that was my baby. Constance nodded. "Yes, your daughter was taken from you that night, and my daughter was given to you instead." My mind was reeling. I thought about the night Precious was born. I was alone in that hospital. Roosevelt could not be there because he had to work. I had no family with me, no one to watch over me. I remembered the nurse bringing me the baby. I remembered holding her for the first time. I remembered thinking she looked different than I expected. Lighter skin, softer hair. But I told myself it was just my imagination. I told myself all Bobbies look different when they are first born. I never questioned it. Why would I? Why would anyone think their baby had been switched? "What happened to my daughter?" I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. The baby that was supposed to be mine. Constance's face crumpled with grief. I raised her, she said. I raised her as my own. I named her Imani. Imani, my real daughter had a name I never gave her, a name I never knew. She was beautiful, Constance continued. Smart, kind, gentle. She had your eyes, Bethina, your smile, your spirit. Had, I repeated. The word felt like a knife in my chest. You said she died 3 years ago. Constance nodded. Tears were streaming down her face. Imani was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 20 years old. She fought hard, so hard, but the cancer was too aggressive. She passed away 2 years later. A sob escaped my throat. The daughter I never knew, the daughter I was supposed to raise, she was gone, forever. Before she died, Constance said, Imani asked me to do a DNA test. She had always felt different from me. She wanted to know the truth about where she came from. And that is when you found out, I said. Yes, the DNA test showed that Imani was not my biological daughter. I was devastated, confused. I started investigating. I tracked down the nurse who worked at St. Michael's that night. She was old and sick, but she was still alive, and she confessed everything. Constance's voice hardened. My mother paid her $5,000 to switch the bobbies. She thought she was protecting our family. She thought she was doing the right thing, but she stole your daughter from you, Bethina, and she gave you mine instead. I looked at Precious. She was standing frozen near the head table. Her face was white as a ghost. Theodore was beside her, but he looked like he wanted to disappear. So Precious, I started. Precious is my biological daughter, Constance confirmed. But she was raised by you, and my biological daughter, Imani, the one who was supposed to be yours, she is gone. The weight of those words crushed me. I had spent 25 years raising someone else's child. Someone who mocked me, someone who disrespected me, someone who was ashamed of me. And the child I was supposed to raise, the child who might have loved me, was dead. The room was completely silent now. Even Precious had stopped screaming. She was staring at Constance with wide, hollow eyes. You are lying, Precious whispered. This is some kind of sick joke. It is not a joke, Constance said. She walked toward Precious. I have the DNA tests, I have the hospital records, I have the confession from the nurse. It is all true, Precious, every word. Precious shook her head frantically. No, my mother is Bethina Crawford. I grew up in her house. I ate her food. You mocked her, Constance interrupted. Her voice was sharp. You humiliated her. You treated her like garbage, and she paid for this entire wedding. She gave you everything she had. Precious flinched like she had been slapped. Do you want to know something about Imani? Constance continued. The daughter I raised, the daughter who should have been Bethina's. Precious did not answer. She just stood there trembling. Imani was grateful for everything she had. She never complained. She never asked for more than she needed. She volunteered at homeless shelters. She donated her birthday money to charity. She loved everyone around her unconditionally. Constance's voice broke. And when she was dying, do you know what she said to me? She said, Mama, I hope my real mother knows how much I would have loved her. I hope she knows that wherever I came from, I am grateful. Tears were streaming down my face. The daughter I never knew, the daughter who died without ever meeting me. She had thought about me. She had loved me from afar. I found a letter, Constance said. Imani wrote it before she passed. She asked me to give it to her biological mother if I ever found her. She reached into her purse again and pulled out a white envelope. It was worn and creased, like it had been held many times. She walked over to me and placed the envelope in my hands. This is for you, Bethina, from your daughter, your real daughter. I stared at the envelope. My name was written on the front in careful, beautiful handwriting. To my real mother. I could not open it, not here, not now, not in front of all these people. But I held it to my chest like it was the most precious thing in the world, because it was. The reception had fallen apart. Guests were leaving. Theodore's family was huddled in a corner, whispering angrily. Theodore himself looked like he wanted to crawl under a rock. Precious stood alone in the middle of the room. Her perfect wedding had been destroyed. Her secrets had been exposed, and for the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. I stood up from my chair. My legs were weak, but I forced myself to walk. I walked toward Precious. She looked at me with fearful eyes. "Mama, Do not call me that," I said quietly. "You lost that right a long time ago." Precious's lip trembled. I did not know any of this. "It does not matter," I said. "Even if we shared the same blood, it would not matter, because you showed me who you are tonight. You showed everyone who you are." I looked at the ring on her finger, the expensive dress, the fancy venue. "I gave you everything I had," I said. "My money, my time, my love, and you threw it back in my face. You mocked me in front of 300 people. You called me an embarrassment." Precious opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. "I am done, Precious. I am done sacrificing for someone who does not appreciate me. I am done loving someone who does not love me back." I turned and walked toward the exit. But before I reached the door, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Constance. "Bethina, wait," she said. "There is one more thing you need to know." I stopped. I turned to face her. "What?" Constance's face was serious. "The nurse who switched the bobbies, the one my mother bribed, she is still alive, and she wants to meet you." My heart skipped a beat. "Why?" "Because she has been carrying this guilt for 25 years, and because—" Constance hesitated. "Because what?" Constance took a deep breath. "Because she says there were not just 2 bobbies switched that night. There were 3. My blood ran cold. 3 bobbies. What did that mean? Who was the 3rd baby? Constance looked at me with haunted eyes. "Bethina, I think there is another child out there. Another child whose life was stolen, and I think you might be the key to finding them." Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 bobbies. Those 2 words echoed in my mind as I stood in that ruined reception hall. The guests were gone now. The tables were empty. The flowers were wilting. The beautiful wedding had turned into a nightmare. And now Constance was telling me there was another child out there. Another life that had been twisted by lies and deceit. "What do you mean 3 bobbies?" I asked. My voice was hoarse from crying. "How is that possible?" Constance looked around the empty room. Theodore and his family had disappeared. Precious was sitting alone at a table, her head in her hands. My other children, Malcolm, Darnell, and Ruthann, were standing near the door, watching with worried eyes. "Not here," Constance said quietly. "We need to talk somewhere private. This is too important, too dangerous." Dangerous? That word sent a chill down my spine. "Mama," Ruthann walked toward me. Her face was pale and tired. "What is going on? What is she talking about?" I looked at my daughter, my real daughter, the one I had raised from birth, the one who had never mocked me, the one who had always treated me with love and respect. "I do not know yet," I admitted, "but I need to find out." I turned to Constance. "Where do you want to go?" "There is a diner down the road. It will be quiet this time of night. We can talk there." I nodded. I looked back at my children. "Go home," I said. "I will call you in the morning." Malcolm stepped forward. He was my oldest, 50 years old now, with gray in his hair and worry lines on his face. "Mama, we are not leaving you alone with this woman," he said. "We do not even know who she is." "She is someone who knows the truth," I said, "and I need to hear it, all of it." Malcolm looked like he wanted to argue, but Ruthann put a hand on his arm. "Let Mama go," Ruthann said softly. "She needs answers, we all do." Malcolm hesitated, then he nodded slowly. "Call us if you need anything," he said, "and I mean anything." I hugged each of my children. Then I followed Constance out of the reception hall and into the cool night air. The diner was called Ruby's. It was a small place with red booths and checkered floors. The kind of place where truckers stopped for coffee and pie in the middle of the night. Constance and I sat in a booth near the back. A tired waitress brought us 2 cups of coffee. Neither of us touched them. "Tell me everything," I said, "from the beginning." Constance wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. She stared into the dark liquid like she was looking for answers. "After I found out about the switch," she began, "I became obsessed. I needed to understand how it happened. I needed to know if there were others." Others? Other Bobbies who were switched. Other families whose lives were destroyed. She looked up at me. "The nurse who switched us, her name is Delphine Marchand. She worked at St. Michael's Hospital for 30 years. She was known as one of the best nurses in the maternity ward. Kind, gentle, everyone trusted her." "But she was not trustworthy," I said bitterly. "No, she was desperate," Constance sighed. "Delphine had a gambling problem. She owed money to dangerous people. When my mother offered her $5,000 to switch the Bobbies, she could not say no. So she sold my daughter for $5,000, I said. The anger in my voice surprised me. "Yes, and that is terrible, unforgivable, but here is what I discovered when I tracked her down." Constance leaned forward. "My mother was not the only person who paid Delphine to switch Bobbies." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Delphine confessed to me that she had done it before, and after. Over the course of her career, she switched at least 3 sets of Bobbies, maybe more." I felt like I was going to be sick. 3 sets of Bobbies. At least 6 children who grew up with the wrong families. 6 lives built on lies. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would she do that?" "Money," Constance said simply. "Always money. Rich families who wanted to get rid of inconvenient Bobbies. Families who wanted sons instead of daughters. Families who wanted to hide shameful secrets." She shook her head slowly. Delphine was their solution. For the right price, she would make their problems disappear. I sat back in the booth. My mind was spinning. This was so much bigger than I had imagined. This was not just about me and Precious. This was about an entire system of lies and corruption. "You said there were 3 Bobbies switched the night I gave birth," I said. "Who was the third?" Constance pulled out a small notebook from her purse. She flipped through the pages until she found what she was looking for. "The night you gave birth, there were 7 Bobbies born at St. Michael's Hospital. 3 girls and 4 boys. Of the 3 girls, 1 was yours, 1 was mine, and 1 belonged to a woman named Odalise Fontaine." Odalise Fontaine. I had never heard that name before. "Who is she?" Odalise was a young woman from Haiti. She came to America when she was pregnant, looking for a better life. She had no family here, no money, no support. She gave birth alone, just like you did. My heart ached for this woman I had never met. I knew what it was like to be alone and scared. "What happened to her baby?" Constance's face darkened. "That is where the story gets complicated. According to Delphine, Odalise gave birth to a healthy baby girl, but someone paid Delphine to switch that baby with another." "With whose baby?" Constance hesitated. She looked down at her notebook, then back at me. "Bethina, do you remember a family named Ashford?" My blood turned to ice. Ashford, Theodore Ashford, the man Precious had just married. "Yes," I said slowly. "Theodore's family, the Ashfords." "Theodore has a sister," Constance said. "Her name is Evangeline. She is 3 years older than Theodore. She was born at St. Michael's Hospital 28 years ago." I stared at her. I was starting to understand what she was saying, but my mind did not want to accept it. "Are you telling me that Evangeline Ashford is not really an Ashford?" Constance nodded. "Evangeline is the biological daughter of Odalise Fontaine. The Ashfords paid Delphine to switch her with their real daughter, who was born with a serious heart defect. The doctors said she would not survive. The Ashfords did not want a sick child. They wanted a healthy heir, so they paid Delphine to give them Odalise's baby instead." "And what happened to the Ashfords' real daughter, the one with the heart defect?" Constance's eyes filled with sadness. "She was given to Odalise. Odalise raised her as her own, but the baby died when she was only 2 years old. The heart defect was too severe." I covered my mouth with my hand. This was monstrous. The Ashfords had thrown away their own sick child and stolen a healthy one to replace her. Does Evangeline know? I asked. No, she has no idea. She grew up believing she was an Ashford. She has their name, their money, their privilege, but none of their blood. And Odalys, does she know the truth? Odalys died 10 years ago. She never knew that the baby she raised was not her own. She went to her grave believing she was the mother of a child who was not hers. I sat in silence, trying to process everything I had just heard. The web of lies was so tangled, so deep, that I could barely make sense of it. Why are you telling me all this? I finally asked. What does any of this have to do with me? Constance reached across the table and took my hand. Because Delphine wants to confess. She is dying, Bethina. She has cancer. The doctors say she only has a few months left, and before she dies, she wants to make things right. Make things right? I laughed bitterly. How can she possibly make things right? She destroyed lives. She stole children. She cannot undo any of that. No, she cannot, Constance agreed. But she can expose the truth. She can tell the world what she did, and she can help the families she hurt find closure. What kind of closure? She wants to meet with all of us. You, me, Evangeline, anyone else who was affected by what she did. She wants to confess everything. She wants to apologize, and she wants to give us the evidence we need to hold the people who paid her accountable. I pulled my hand away from Constance. You mean the Ashfords? Yes, among others. I thought about Theodore and his family, the way they looked down on me at the wedding, the way they whispered and judged. They were monsters. They had bought a baby like she was a piece of furniture. And now their son had married Precious, the girl I raised, the girl who was not even mine. It was almost funny, in a sick, twisted way. When does Delphine want to meet? I asked. Tomorrow. She is in a hospice care facility about an hour from here. She is weak, but she is determined. She said she will not die until she has told the truth. I looked out the window of the diner. The sky was starting to lighten. Dawn was coming, a new day. I will go, I said. I need to hear it from her. I need to understand. Constance nodded. I will pick you up at 9 o'clock. I did not sleep that night. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything I had learned. Precious was not my daughter. My real daughter, Imani, was dead. And somewhere out there, a woman named Evangeline Ashford was living a lie, just like I had been. I thought about the letter in my purse, the letter from Imani, my daughter, the daughter I never knew. I had not opened it yet. I was scared of what it would say, scared of how much it would hurt. But now, lying in the darkness, I knew it was time. I reached over to my nightstand and picked up the envelope. My hands were trembling as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in neat, beautiful handwriting. Dear Mama, I know that sounds strange. You do not know me. We have never met, but I have thought about you my whole life. When I was little, I used to dream about you. I would imagine what you looked like, what your voice sounded like, whether you would love me if you knew me. I always felt like something was missing, like there was a piece of me that did not fit. I did not look like my mother. I did not think like her. I did not feel like I belonged in her world. Now I know why. Now I know the truth. I am not angry. I want you to know that. I am not angry at you or at anyone. Life is too short for anger. I learned that the hard way. I just want you to know that I love you, even though we never met. Even though I do not know your name or your face, I love you because you gave me life. You carried me for 9 months. You brought me into this world. And that is enough. That is more than enough. I do not know what your life has been like. I do not know if you have been happy or sad, but I hope you have been loved. I hope you have people who appreciate you. I hope you know how special you are. If we had met, I think we would have been close. I think we would have understood each other. I think we would have been friends. But we did not meet, and that is okay, because I believe that love does not need time or space. Love just is, and my love for you is real, even if we never shared a single moment together. I am dying now. The doctors say I do not have much time left, but I am not scared. I am ready. I have lived a good life. I have loved and been loved, and that is all anyone can ask for. If you are reading this, it means my other mother found you. It means the truth finally came out. I am glad. I did not want you to go your whole life without knowing. Please do not be sad for me. I am at peace, and I hope you find peace too. With all my love. Imani. Your daughter. I read that letter 5 times. Each time, the tears came harder. By the end, I was sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. My daughter, my sweet, beautiful daughter, she had loved me without ever knowing me. She had thought about me her whole life, and she had died without us ever meeting. I held the letter to my chest and cried until there were no more tears left. But somewhere in the middle of all that grief, I felt something else, something unexpected. Peace. Imani had found peace. She had told me not to be sad. She had told me that love does not need time or space. And she was right. She was absolutely right. I had lost so much, but I had also gained something precious. I had gained a daughter I never knew I had, a daughter who loved me unconditionally, a daughter who proved that blood does not matter as much as the heart. I wiped my tears and looked at the clock. It was 8:30 in the morning. Constance would be here soon. I got up and started getting ready. Today I would meet Delphine Marchand. Today I would hear the full truth. Today I would start the process of healing. But I did not know that the day would bring more than just answers. It would bring a confrontation I never expected. Constance picked me up at exactly 9 o'clock. She was driving a sleek black car that looked expensive. I climbed into the passenger seat without saying much. We drove in silence for most of the trip. The hospice facility was located in a quiet town about an hour outside the city. It was a peaceful place, surrounded by trees and gardens. We parked in front of a long, low building. Constance turned off the engine but did not move. "Are you ready?" she asked. "No," I admitted, "but I am going anyway." We walked inside together. The nurse at the front desk directed us to Delphine's room. It was at the end of a long hallway, past other rooms filled with other dying people. I thought about all the lives that ended in places like this, all the secrets that were taken to the grave, all the words that were never spoken. Today, at least one secret would be revealed. We reached Delphine's room. The door was slightly open. I could hear voices inside. Constance frowned. "That is strange. She was not supposed to have any other visitors." We pushed the door open and stepped inside. And then I stopped cold. There were 2 people already in the room, standing beside Delphine's bed. One of them was a tall, elegant woman with blonde hair and cold blue eyes. She was wearing a designer dress and pearls around her neck. I recognized her immediately. It was Genevieve Ashford, Theodore's mother, the woman who had looked at me with such disdain at the wedding. And standing next to her was Precious. My not daughter, the girl who had mocked me, the girl who had called me an embarrassment. She was staring at me with wide, frightened eyes. And in Genevieve's hand was a pillow she was holding over Delphine's face. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Time stopped. I stood in the doorway of that hospice room, my feet frozen to the floor. My eyes could not believe what they were seeing. Genevieve Ashford, the wealthy, elegant mother of Theodore, was pressing a pillow over the face of a dying woman. She was trying to kill Delphine Marchand, the only person who could expose the truth about what the Ashford family had done. And Precious was standing right beside her, watching it happen. "No," I screamed. My voice shattered the silence. Genevieve's head snapped toward me. Her cold blue eyes went wide with shock. For a split second, she froze. That split second was all I needed. I ran toward the bed. My old legs moved faster than they had moved in years. I grabbed the pillow and ripped it out of Genevieve's hands. She stumbled backward, her face twisted with rage. "What are you doing here?" Genevieve hissed. "This is none of your business." "None of my business," I shouted. "You were trying to kill her. I saw it with my own eyes." Constance rushed past me and bent over Delphine. The old nurse was gasping for air, her frail chest heaving up and down. She was alive. Barely. "Call for help," Constance yelled. "She needs oxygen." I turned toward the door, but Genevieve grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a woman who looked like she had never worked a day in her life. "Listen to me," Genevieve said. Her voice was low and dangerous. "You do not understand what is happening here. You need to walk away, right now." "I am not walking away from anything," I said. I yanked my arm free. "I know what you did. I know about the baby's switch. I know about Evangeline. I know everything." Genevieve's face went pale. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. "You know nothing," she whispered. "I know enough," I said, "and so does she." I pointed at Delphine. The old nurse was looking at us with weak, watery eyes, but there was something in those eyes, something like relief. "It is over, Genevieve," Constance said. She was holding Delphine's hand. "We have the evidence. We have the confession. Killing Delphine will not change anything." Genevieve laughed. It was a cold, bitter laugh. "You think evidence matters. You think anyone will believe a dying old woman over the Ashford family. We own judges. We own politicians. We own the media. No one will touch us." "Maybe not," I said, "but the truth will still come out, and when it does, your whole world will come crashing down." Genevieve stared at me with pure hatred. Then she turned to Precious. "Come, Precious, we are leaving." Precious did not move. She was standing in the corner of the room, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked like a scared child. "Precious," Genevieve said sharply, "I said we are leaving." "No." The word came out soft, almost a whisper, but everyone heard it. Genevieve's eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" Precious looked up. Tears were streaming down her face. "I said no. I am not going anywhere with you." "Do not be foolish, child. You are in Ashford now. You belong with us." "I do not belong with anyone who tries to kill old women in their beds," Precious shouted. Her voice cracked with emotion. "I do not know who you people are anymore. I do not know who I am anymore." She looked at me. Her eyes were filled with pain and confusion. "Mama," she whispered, "I am so sorry." I stared at her. This girl who had mocked me. This girl who had humiliated me. This girl who had treated me like garbage for years. She was apologizing. I did not know what to feel. Part of me wanted to run to her and hold her. Part of me wanted to slap her across the face. Part of me felt nothing at all. But before I could respond, the door burst open. 2 nurses and a security guard rushed into the room. Someone had heard the commotion and called for help. "What is going on here?" the security guard demanded. Constance pointed at Genevieve. "This woman tried to smother the patient. We caught her in the act." Genevieve straightened her dress and put on her most dignified expression. "That is absurd," she said smoothly. "I was simply visiting a family friend. This woman is confused." "I am not confused," Delphine rasped. Her voice was weak but clear. "She tried to kill me. She wanted to stop me from telling the truth." The security guard looked from Genevieve to Delphine to me. He seemed uncertain about what to do. "Ma'am, I am going to have to ask you to come with me," he said to Genevieve. "Do you know who I am?" Genevieve snapped. "I am Genevieve Ashford. My family built half the hospitals in this state. You cannot treat me like a common criminal." "Ma'am, please, just come with me so we can sort this out." Genevieve glared at him. Then she glared at me. "This is not over," she said. "Not by a long shot." She walked out of the room with the security guard. One of the nurses followed them. The other nurse stayed to check on Delphine. She adjusted the oxygen tube and checked her vital signs. "She is stable," the nurse said, "but she needs rest." "Wait," Delphine said. She reached out a trembling hand toward me. "Please, I need to speak. I need to tell the truth before it is too late." The nurse hesitated. "Ma'am, you really should rest." "I will rest when I am dead," Delphine said. There was a spark of fire in her old eyes. "And that will be soon enough. But first, I need to speak." The nurse looked at me, then at Constance. Finally, she sighed. 5 minutes, she said. Then she needs to sleep." She left the room and closed the door behind her. I pulled a chair up to Delphine's bed and sat down. Constance stood behind me. Precious stayed in the corner, watching with wide, tearful eyes. Delphine looked at me with those watery eyes. Up close, I could see how frail she was. Her skin was paper thin. Her hands were trembling. She was a woman at the end of her life. "Mrs. Crawford," she said, "I know you must hate me." "I do not know what I feel," I admitted. "I just want to understand." Delphine nodded slowly. "I have done terrible things," she said. "Things I can never undo. Things that have haunted me every single day for 25 years. She took a shaky breath. "When I switched those bobbies, I told myself it was just a job. I told myself I was helping families. I told myself the children would have better lives." "Better lives," I repeated. "You stole children from their mothers." I know that now. But back then I was desperate. I was drowning in debt. I had loan sharks threatening to break my legs. I would have done anything for money." She looked at me with pleading eyes. "That does not excuse what I did. Nothing can excuse it. But I want you to understand. I was not a monster. I was a weak, desperate woman who made terrible choices." I did not respond. I just listened. "The night you gave birth," Delphine continued, "there were 3 baby girls born at St. Michael's. You, Constance, and Odalise Fontaine." "I know about Odalise," I said. "Constance told me." "Then you know that her baby was switched with the Ashford's baby, and Constance's baby was switched with yours." "Yes." Delphine shook her head slowly. "What you do not know is that it was all connected. All 3 switches were arranged by the same person." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "Constance's mother paid me to switch her baby. The Ashfords paid me to switch theirs, but they did not find me separately. They were introduced to me by the same person, a broker, a middleman who arranged these kinds of deals." "Who?" Constance asked. Her voice was tight with anger. Delphine looked at her with sorrowful eyes. "His name was Harrison Ashford, Theodore's father." The room went silent. Harrison Ashford, the patriarch of the Ashford family, the man who had stood at the wedding looking down on me like I was dirt. He was the one who had orchestrated everything. "Harrison ran a secret business," Delphine explained. "He connected wealthy families with people like me, people who could make their problems disappear. He took a cut of every payment. He made millions over the years." "Millions," I whispered. "Yes, baby switching was just one of his services. He also arranged adoptions, fake birth certificates, identity changes, anything a wealthy family needed to protect their reputation." I felt sick. This was so much bigger than I had imagined. This was not just a crime. This was an empire of lies. "Why did my mother go to him?" Constance asked. Her voice was shaking. "Your mother was a client of his for years," Delphine said. "She used his services to cover up many embarrassing situations. When she found out you were pregnant, she called Harrison. He arranged everything." Constance covered her face with her hands. She was crying softly. "And the Ashford switch?" I asked. "The one with Odalise's baby?" "That was Harrison's idea from the beginning. His wife gave birth to a sick baby. The doctors said she would not survive. Harrison refused to accept that. He said an Ashford could not have a defective child, so he found a healthy baby to replace her." "Odalise's baby," I said. "Yes, Odalise was poor and alone. She had no one to protect her. Harrison knew she would never be able to fight back. And she never found out. No, she raised the sick baby as her own. The child died when she was 2 years old. Odalise grieved for years. She blamed herself. She thought she had failed as a mother." Tears were streaming down my face now. Poor Odalise. She had loved a child that was not hers and watched her die. She had carried that grief to her grave. "What about my baby?" I asked. "The one that should have been mine." Delphine looked at Constance. "Imani." "Yes, Imani." I could barely say her name without breaking down. Why was she switched? What did my baby have to do with any of this? Delphine was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Your baby was not supposed to be switched, Mrs. Crawford. It was an accident." An accident? Yes, the night you gave birth, there was chaos in the maternity ward. 3 bobbies, 3 switches. I was overwhelmed, I was scared, and I made a mistake. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I switched the wrong bobbies. Your daughter was supposed to stay with you. But in the confusion, I gave her to Constance and gave Constance's baby to you." I stared at her. My mind could not process what she was saying. "You mean, my daughter was taken from me by accident, not on purpose?" Yes, I realized my mistake the next morning. But by then, it was too late. The Bobbies had already gone home with their mothers. I was too scared to say anything. I thought if I kept quiet, no one would ever know. I stood up from the chair. My whole body was trembling. "My daughter was stolen from me because you made a mistake." My voice was rising. "Because you were careless. Because you were too scared to tell the truth." "I am sorry," Delphine whispered. "I am so sorry." "Sorry," I shouted. "Sorry does not bring back 25 years. Sorry does not bring back my daughter. Sorry does not fix anything." I wanted to grab her. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to make her feel even a fraction of the pain I was feeling. But I did not, because she was already dying, because she was already suffering, because nothing I did would change the past. I collapsed back into the chair and buried my face in my hands. "Mama." The voice was soft, hesitant. I looked up. Precious was standing beside me. Her face was streaked with tears. "I know you are not my real mother," she said quietly. "I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I need to tell you something." I did not respond. I just looked at her. "When I was a little girl," Precious continued, "I used to watch you come home from work. You would be so tired. Your hands would be rough and cracked. Your back would be bent. But you always smiled at me. You always asked about my day. You always made sure I had everything I needed." She knelt beside my chair. "I do not know why I turned out the way I did. I do not know why I became so obsessed with money and status. Maybe it was because I felt like I did not belong. Maybe it was because I was always searching for something I could not find." She took my hand in hers. "But I know one thing for certain. You were a good mother to me. Even though I was not your daughter, you loved me like I was. You sacrificed for me. You gave me everything you had." She was crying now, really crying. "I am so sorry for what I said at the wedding. I am so sorry for the way I treated you. I was wrong. I was so wrong." I looked at this girl kneeling before me. This girl I had raised. This girl I had loved, even when she did not love me back. And I made a decision. "Stand up," I said. Precious looked at me with fear in her eyes, but she stood up. I stood up too. I looked her straight in the face. "What you did at that wedding hurt me more than anything has ever hurt me in my life," I said. "You broke my heart in front of 300 people. You made me feel worthless. You made me feel like everything I did for you meant nothing." Precious nodded. She was trembling. "But I also know that you were lost," I continued. "I know that you were searching for something you could not find. I know that you were hurting in ways I did not understand." I took a deep breath. "I do not know if I can forgive you right now. It is too soon. The wound is too fresh. But I am willing to try. I am willing to give you a chance to prove that you have changed." Precious threw her arms around me. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you, Mama. I will spend the rest of my life making this up to you. I promise." I patted her back gently. I did not say anything, because words were not enough. Only time would tell if Precious really meant what she said. An hour later, we left Delphine's room. She had told us everything she knew. She had given us documents, names, dates, evidence that could bring down the entire Ashford empire. She had also asked for our forgiveness. I could not give it to her, not yet, maybe not ever, but I told her that I would try to find peace. That was the best I could offer. Constance drove me home. Precious sat in the back seat, silent and subdued. When we arrived at my house, I was surprised to see several cars parked outside. Malcolm's truck, Darnell's van, Ruth Ann's sedan. My children were waiting for me. I walked inside and found them all sitting in my living room. They stood up when they saw me. "Mama, are you okay?" Ruth then asked. "We have been worried sick." "I am okay," I said. "Tired, but okay." Malcolm looked at Precious, who was standing behind me. His jaw tightened. "What is she doing here?" "She came with me," I said. "We have a lot to talk about, all of us." We sat down together, and I told them everything. The baby switch, Delphine's confession, the Ashford family's crimes, Harrison's secret business. By the time I finished, the room was silent. My children were staring at me with shock and disbelief. "So Precious is not really our sister?" Darnell asked. "Not by blood," I said. "But she was raised as my daughter. That has to count for something." Ruth Ann looked at Precious. "And you knew about none of this?" Precious shook her head. "I found out at the wedding just like everyone else. I had no idea." "But you still mocked Mama in front of all those people," Malcolm said coldly. "You still humiliated her." "I know," Precious said, "and I will regret that for the rest of my life, but I am asking for a chance to make things right." My children looked at each other. I could see the conflict in their faces. They were angry at Precious. They wanted to protect me, but they also knew that family was about more than blood. Finally, Ruth Ann spoke. "You hurt Mama badly," she said to Precious. "It is going to take a long time for us to trust you again, but if Mama is willing to give you a chance, then we will too." Malcolm and Darnell nodded reluctantly. Precious looked at me with grateful eyes. "Thank you, all of you." The next few weeks were chaotic. Constance and I went to the authorities with the evidence Delphine had given us. The investigation into the Ashford family began. Harrison was arrested. Genevieve was arrested. Their assets were frozen. Their secrets were exposed. It was all over the news. The wealthy Ashford family brought down by their own crimes. The baby switching scandal shocked the nation. Everyone was talking about it. Theodore tried to distance himself from his parents. He claimed he knew nothing about their crimes. Maybe that was true. Maybe it was not. Either way, his marriage to Precious was annulled. She moved out of their fancy house and came to live with me. It was strange at first, having Precious under my roof again, seeing her every day, talking to her like we used to before everything went wrong. But slowly, things started to change. Precious started to change. She got a job at a local store. It was not glamorous. It did not pay much, but she worked hard. She came home tired every night, and for the first time in her life, she understood what I had gone through to raise her. "I never knew how hard you worked," she told me one evening. "I never appreciated it, but I do now." She also started volunteering at a community center on weekends. She helped kids with their homework. She organized food drives. She gave back to the community that she had once looked down on. I watched her transform. I watched her become the person she should have been all along. And slowly, my heart began to heal. 1 year later, I received a package in the mail. It was from Constance. Inside was a photograph I had never seen before. It was a picture of Amani. My real daughter. She was standing on a beach smiling at the camera. The sun was setting behind her. She looked so happy, so peaceful, so full of life. There was a note attached to the photograph. "Dear Bethina, I found this picture while going through Amani's things. I thought you should have it. She would have wanted you to see her smile. I think about you often. I think about how our lives were twisted by other people's choices. I think about how much we both lost. But I also think about how much we have gained. We have gained the truth. We have gained each other. And we have gained a second chance to live our lives with honesty and love. Amani would be proud of you. I know she would. With love, Constance." I held the photograph to my chest and cried. But this time, they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude. I had lost so much, but I had also gained so much. I had gained the truth. I had gained a relationship with Constance. I had gained a second chance with Precious. I had gained the knowledge that my real daughter had loved me, even from afar. And most importantly, I had gained peace. That evening, I sat on my porch and watched the sunset. Precious came out and sat beside me. "Beautiful, is it not?" she said. "Yes," I agreed. "It is." We sat in silence for a while. Then Precious spoke. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you regret it? Raising me, I mean, even though I was not yours?" I thought about the question. I thought about all the years I had spent working and sacrificing, all the sleepless nights, all the worry and stress, all the heartache Precious had caused me. And then I thought about the good times, the laughter, the hugs, the moments of joy that made everything worth it. "No," I said finally, "I do not regret it." Precious looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Really?" "Really, you were my daughter for 25 years. Nothing can change that, not biology, not DNA, not anything." I reached over and took her hand. "We cannot choose the family we are born into, but we can choose the family we become. And I choose you, Precious. Despite everything, I choose you." Precious squeezed my hand. Tears were streaming down her face. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, baby." We sat there together, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. A new day was ending, but a new chapter was just beginning. If you are watching this story, I want you to know something. Life is not always fair. Sometimes we are hurt by the people we love the most. Sometimes our sacrifices go unnoticed. Sometimes our hearts are broken into a million pieces. But we have a choice. We can let the pain destroy us, or we can let it make us stronger. I chose strength. I chose forgiveness. I chose love. And I hope you will too. Thank you for watching until the end. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to this channel. Press that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Press the like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. I want to know who is here with me. I want to build a family of strong people who support each other. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Love your families. Forgive those who have hurt you. And never, ever give up on the people you love.